welcome to Joe's Java Jive. Yes, we are alive and here and well on episode 35. I'm so excited to be here today, speaking with you all and introducing you to a great friend, mentor, and coach, someone who has really changed my life for the better. I'm so thrilled and excited to have them here with me today. Without further ado, I'm going to bring them on to the screen. Welcome, Karali.
It's so out of tune.
The world is out of tune. We are all in that mood. That's beautiful. Thank you for providing your own musical interlude, as is the theme of this show. That's what we do. How are you today?
Good. Hi.
Thank you for being here and for your tremendous visit to my home earlier, dropping off a gift that we will be discussing at length today. It's always great to see you, Karali.
So great to see you too, always.
Well, I want to start by telling the folks a little bit about who you are and what your story is. So let's start from the beginning and tell me a little bit about where you were born and what family you were born into. We'll start there.
Okay, the beginning. When you said the
Yeah.
beginning, I was like, does he mean 1971?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I was born in 1971. My parents were, one of them was an academic, my dad, Peter Pitzele, and the other one was a flower child, high school dropout, Indira Darst. And I hate to say dropout because it sounds negative, but both of my parents have both been people who have hewn their own paths and engaged in a life of self-discovery and service and supporting other people on their paths of discovery. So I was born into that kind of a family, but in the milieu of the 70s when things were very new in that area of reinventing what life could look like.
It all changed then, and it seems like we're still feeling the echoes of that. And of course, you were raised here in the Hudson Valley, and it's so great to meet you. And our paths have crossed, and for the betterment of my life. And I'm so thankful to you. So I wanted to share to these folks. I gave you a little bit of a prerequisite of who you are, but what are some of the gifts and offerings that you find yourself doing now at this stage of your journey?
Thanks for asking. I have like two major, different but connected offerings. I'm a coach and I do life coaching and leadership coaching and career coaching. I'm a certified ICF certified coach. And that comes out of my career as a teacher and then as a principal and then coaching teachers and coaching principals. And then I broke out of education spaces and started offering that to the broader world. The other one is organization development consulting. And I work with organizations and companies to figure out what cultural or systemic challenges they have internally that might be impeding the impact they want to have in the world. And so that also kind of comes out of my background in education because teachers do that all the time in their classrooms. And then as a principal, I did that, developed my own organization. And then I worked with large districts helping to improve teacher development and improve student learning and understanding what were the blocks in their systems to getting to better student learning experiences. And now I offer that to corporations, nonprofits, companies, where I can come in and support teams in reflecting on their practice and understanding best practices in organizational development.
Well, that's just so amazing. And I'm so thankful to you for doing that for me. I mean, you are an unblocker. That's such a great way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm an obstacle remover, actually.
Yes, you go in there, take those obstacles away, and help people see their true potential. I know it from experience. Have you always been such a giver and a healer? Were you helping your friends? Were you raised here in the Hudson Valley, or?
Yeah, I was raised here in the Hudson Valley in New Paltz. And, I mean, I think maybe on a subtle level, coming out of the chaos of the 70s and the chaos of a family that was continually reinventing itself, I probably grew up with some habits of trying to organize everybody. Um,
Nice.
but then
What?
there's something else, maybe we could attribute it perhaps to astrology. I have like a really strong energy of removing obstacles, and I'm seeing patterns and understanding, like very intuitive with people, and this like kind of compulsion to help people and systems become more free or more liberated. So
It's such a gift, and noticing what is your patterns is the first step to thinking about where you're at. And you and I were talking a bit about resumes and rebirth, and as it was once called, and it's now evolved. But this was something that you were offering, put out into the world, of this combination of working on yourself and rebirth, which I'm always telling people. In fact, when it's their birthday, I like to say happy rebirth day.
oh, I like that.
Every day is a chance to be reborn and start anew. And when you can notice these patterns and make continued changes, it's amazing. And having somebody like you in people's corner and listening to this podcast, you're going to get a taste of this. It's just is so nice to feel like you're not alone in taking on this transformation of rebirth.
I
It's
think
great.
part of the reason the word rebirth resonates for me is that birth is hard. Being born, like there's the birth canal, it's tight, it's dark, your head is squished, like you don't know what's on the other side. Like there's a lot of unknowing, there's a lot of risk. Um, and then there's also the ultimate benefit, which is coming forth, right?
Yes.
Um, so it's to me, it's a metaphor that just speaks to the richness of a process where you're genuinely going all the way into the heart of who you are to come forth in a new way in the world.
Mm. And that's always it. That's a big message I'm learning. You have to get close to yourself in all of life. You have to first you have to go towards the problem, not away from it, or go towards, in this case, the solution and your true identity and who you are, right?
Yeah. And I just would say also from the original Rebirth and Resumes course, and which ended up becoming this book, it came out of my coaching. The first, when I launched myself as a private coach, so no longer just coaching school principals, but actually just coaching whoever would come towards me, I kept getting people, leaders actually, who wanted to change their careers. And it's when you're quite far along in your career, it's like a really big process to be like, I'm going to change careers. Like it's a whole identity shift, shedding.
Yeah.
Um, but well, the first person and I did quite a bit of work with her resume, and we ended up using the resume as a way to understand like which words were resonant, what like
Mm.
which how to write about it in a way that spoke to where she wanted to go, even though it had to reflect where she'd been. And so really pulling out the language and the concepts and the purpose of it into something new. It was very deep. And out of that, she said, oh, you could do this as a workshop. And that day, it just kind of
Mm.
like came out of me whole, like, oh, yeah, a workshop, 8 sessions, blah, 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 blah. It just kind of like came to me. So I feel like it's just something that needed to come out into the world that's coming
Yes.
through me. And then that's how that ended up becoming a workshop series, which ended up becoming a book. It just came right out of that process.
That's amazing. And it's so true that your resume is that reflection of you and your story. And it's a little like ticket to the show of your life and what you've been through so far.
Mm.
It's amazing.
Maybe it is about your story, but I like to think of it as like, even though it has to tell the past story, it should be resonating with who you are now and where you're going. Actually, like I
Yes.
called like creating a resonant resume, which is that section of the
Mm.
book, because it's like, what is your purpose now? And I think you
Yes.
think of a resume almost like a court document or something, right? Like it has to say everything I did, but like
Everything in order. No.
how you say it, the words you use, the order you put things in, the font you use, just the energy you bring to it should be actually about the future. And so that's where I think and that is where it's also doing the work inside of you, because it's not just the piece of paper, but it's also getting clear.
About who you are, what you are, and which parts of yourself from the past do you want to have best representing you on this. It
And
doesn't have to be everything.
what you're manifesting in your life with this piece of paper.
Yeah. You're asking the world, give me more of this. So that was one of the things when working with you, that's the first thing you realize is like, okay, maybe my college hotel job doesn't need to be here because I have no intentions of working as a front desk in the future. So let me drop that and focus more on and expanding the roles that are consistent with what I want to become. And that was really helpful. But what you do is so much more than the resume. So for folks who hear resume, and I know that sounds alarms, right? People are like, I haven't looked at mine in years. That's not what this is all about, right? Go in and a little bit deeper and explain what Career Rebirth, a guided workbook for personal growth and professional clarity, is all about. And there it
Thank
is in
you.
your
You're
hand.
right. I'm not my main gig is not writing people's resumes.
Yeah, that is just
I can and do, but it's not the main thing.
Yeah.
So this book has 3 parts. The first part is the internal journey of like the who am I part. And actually in a moment I'll tell you a little story from my own life, if that's okay,
Please,
Joe.
yeah.
But the first part is the internal journey, and I'll give you an example from my own life in the moment. And the second, so that's like the first third of the 200-page book. And by the way, this book is it's all exercises. So there's stories, there are frameworks, and then there are exercises. It's like the artist way of career rebirth. So there's a lot in here to support people in processing. It's not just, I'm not just telling you some concepts to think about. Like it's taking you into the work. So the first third is looking back at the patterns in my career, the highs and the lows. What was my experience and what did I bring to that experience? In what ways did I manifest that experience for my own growth, right?
Yeah.
And then how can I shift my patterns? What does it look like to get uncomfortable productively, and start to move into changing those patterns? And we do a lot around like, what do I really want? And not just what other people want from me or what I used to want or what I'm supposed to want or what I should want, but like, what do I really want? And who am I really? Like, if I'm not tying myself into pretzels to fit in this or that job scenario, but actually bringing the job scenario that fits who I actually am, what is that? So getting that clarity on ourselves first before we go into, now I want to think about my career. Let's just think about myself. And then the second part is this resume part that I was just talking about. And this is choose your own adventure. Like if you don't want to do the resume, you can skip that part. But it's kind of like a writing exercise about who you are in your career, really.
And then who you want to become too. Like you said, it's so much about manifesting the future that you want.
Yeah. And then the final third, so there's like, I don't know, 12 chapters in here, but the final third, 13 chapters. So the final 3 chapters are about activating your vision. And so that is who you are what is the best form of networking for you, right? And then how do you network? Making a plan, creating your LinkedIn, having some affirmations for yourself, and then an action plan. So it's really like trying to bring right brain, left brain, your practical and spiritual self, and whatever that means for you. It's meant for all kinds of worldviews can engage with this.
Yes.
But it definitely is bringing the psychological aspects with the practical aspects of evolving in your career.
Which is just what the world needs. I mean, so many people get stuck in what they are currently or what they've been for years. And, I've heard it with so many people where they just feel stuck or stagnant. And, the world doesn't offer you a lot of support if you're not looking for like a big transformation, then you might not find it. if you're not open to it, it comes a lot sooner if you're doing the work. And this is a practical way for people to really look at themselves and their journeys and their life. And like you said, it's not about your career, it's about you, and who are you and who do you want to become. And then we think about the manifesting and attracting that career that would be the dream.
Yeah. And unless we do that work, Joe, often we can't even allow ourselves to ask for what we really want. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
the options that I can see in front of me are so limited because
Yeah.
of the moves that I can, like my, you know, logical brain, I can make this move or this move, maybe that move. But I can only see these things right in front of me, and therefore I won't ask for what's over there.
Yeah.
So
You're not
that's
even
also,
in that ballpark. Yeah.
yeah. So that's part of like just getting out of that rut of like how wherever we've gotten to in our life, and what possibilities we can see to open it up, open the field of possibility. Um,
Mm. And
yeah.
maybe you said there was a story from your life. Is there,
Yeah.
I want to hear about some of those examples in your life too, where you said, wait a minute, maybe I should take a moment and rethink what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah. So I was thinking about this today in preparation for coming here and talking to you, and I was thinking about, it's a story I partially tell this story actually in the book, but um, I think the hardest job that I ever quit, or the hardest time I ever had quitting a job, was when I had founded a public high school in Brooklyn, and I had gotten to design the model of the school within the strictures of public schooling, but with quite a bit of creativity. And I had gotten to select the teachers, and I had gotten to recruit the students, and I had run the school for 4 or 5 years. Um, and I was in my 30s. The school opened when I was 34, so I was quite young. Um, and I hit a wall in the fifth year where I was just completely, completely exhausted. And I did not expect maybe to ever leave the school. Like, why would you leave the thing you started that, and we weren't done, right?
mm-hmm.
But once I was like, I was not just physically exhausted, I was like mentally exhausted, I was emotionally exhausted. And I, part of it is the role of a principal. It's like so different than the role of a founder of a school, So there was
Yeah.
like the amount of the job that was like carrying the burden of everybody's lives and the inequities of our society and the demands of the state and all these things. So that was like heavy, right? And but I had gotten to a point where I could only see the things I hadn't been able to solve. I couldn't see the successes. Now with hindsight, I can see how successful I was and how much amazing stuff happened
Yeah.
in
You
that
did
school.
it.
Not just that it was open, but like we really were innovating a lot on a lot of fronts, in the interest of social justice and liberation and empowering young people and lots of things. But all I could see is the problems I hadn't been able to solve, and I had kind of stopped believing in my own plans, like this. Oh, we're going to solve this way or that way, and I just like I had stopped believing in my own plans, and I had become very thin-skinned, which now I
Mm-hmm.
know are all signs of burnout. But at the time, I was just like, certain people would like certain confidant people would walk into the room, like a coach that I worked with, and I would just like well up,
Mm-hmm.
and I even the work I had to do on the weekend to prepare, like I couldn't get myself to sit down to it. I just was so sensitive and so exhausted. Anyway, it's like really, really hard. And certain point, I knew I needed to leave, but I couldn't imagine leaving. And I felt like leaving would be letting everyone down
Mm-hmm.
and, or admitting failure, or I didn't know where I would go to do. Like other principals left and moved up in the Department of Education, but that didn't appeal to me. I had no idea what could possibly be next for me, and I felt horrible to even make the choice to leave. But finally, after in the sixth year, I finally did, and I was able to make a stage plan with the perfect person to take over, and it all happened very beautifully. And actually, despite my fears that everyone would somehow blame me or criticize me for leaving, people
Mm-hmm.
were like congratulating me and telling me how grateful they were that I'd given them the opportunity to work in this school. And there was so much outpouring of love. It was such an incredibly shocking moment for me. But I went to Asia and I spent some time in Thailand and then in Bali, recovering. And at first, I didn't think I would even work in education ever again.
Mm-hmm.
I was so burned out. And then after right at about 9 months out, so I thought for a while maybe I'm going to open a dress shop, like
Mm.
because I like cool textiles.
Yeah, you're stylish.
And about 9 months in, I was like, well, I really feel like education for democracy, education for liberation is so important. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I could write a book. Maybe I could do something. I wish I could consult and advise schools, but like I knew for a fact that consultants had to do all this like data work, which was my experience working in New York City public schools. Was like the consultants would come in and look at your data with you. So I was like, well, I don't know how. I'm obviously not the expert in that, and that's what consultants do. So obviously, for sure, 100% sure,
Mm.
I cannot be a consultant.
Yeah.
And then like I was reading a book by Byron Katie, and she has this like protocol, and one of the questions is, what if it isn't true? And as
Mm.
the course of reading the book, you see how the question works in people. And at a certain point, that book like popped something open in my brain. I was like, what if it isn't true that you can't be a consultant? What if you have something to offer that you are withholding? What if I have something to offer that I'm withholding from the world with
Mm.
this belief that I can only do it if and but. And so like something that I was 100% sure of became not true.
No, that's
And that's
amazing.
part of what I'm like passionate about is like helping people figure out what those blinders are, um,
Yeah,
and
because those
actually
are holding you
see.
back, right?
Yeah,
Those are the limiting beliefs that will keep you in the same place forever if you're not careful. So you learned and said, what if it isn't true? What if I can do this even though I'm not a statistics girl?
yeah. And then within 3 months, I had like, and by the way, I was like living in Bali, but I'd come back to the States for a few months. But I was going back, and I went to a conference. And in my they assigned us like a small group, advisory group in the conference. And there was an Indonesian. Bali is in Indonesia. There's an
Mm-hmm.
Indonesian in my group, and I made friends with
Hmm.
her. And she invited me. Her team invited me to present at their school when I would be back. And then they offered me a year-long consulting gig
Oh my
within
gosh,
like three
perfect.
months. And
Wow.
that was like, you know, I got to live in Indonesia. I mean, I couldn't have imagined that there would be a consulting project for me that would be aligned to my pedagogy, my ideas about education in Indonesia,
Wow.
you know. And it was a franchise of 11 schools. I'm still friends with those guys.
Hmm.
Um,
And that's
so
life taking you for a ride. And
it's
you
taken me for, it's just like, what? And I couldn't have, it was beyond what I would have asked. I would never have asked for that ever.
Hmm. So this
So
story shows me, and I hope it shows people listening that in a moment of turning to the unknown, you took something that was beautiful and really good, and you felt kind of indebted to it, and you stepped aside and said, you know what, this is gonna be survive without me. I got to figure out what else is in my life. What else am I to do? How am I going to serve?
it
And
wasn't
you
even
did.
logical. It wasn't logical for me to leave the school, but I had to.
Yeah, I love that because so many of us, that's the first step. Like many people will not even look at their resume because they're just happy where they're at, or they're just not. They don't think that they have what it takes to do something more. And I'm guilty of it myself. You see certain positions or certain things, and you just say, "Oh, somebody else is more qualified. Somebody has those specific skills." But then you said, what if it isn't true? What if this is my inner critic talking right now?
Yeah.
How do you
And I
know
will
if it
also say,
is?
but I will also say, like the resume actually, like the in this little tiny philosophy I've created, the resume is part of like doing the work in yourself. But
Yeah.
in the second half of the book, when we talked about networking, getting those gigs really isn't about cold applying, because now you can send out 100 resumes, beautiful jobs, and each time you feel like you're doing something and you get no results.
Hmm.
So actually the networking and the relationship building, and actually
So
there's
true.
some research that shows that people that new connections or rekindled connections um, end up producing more new job opportunities than your close regular connections, which was true in that case. Like I had a new friend who invited me to go to the conference, made a new friend. So
You follow the line. These people are put in your life for a reason, and
exactly.
it's like, oh, let me follow where this thread is going, and you'll find a beautiful sweater waiting for you in the form of an opportunity. Something is waiting
Well,
with
it's like
each.
you and me meeting, right? Like we
Yeah,
just have had so many gifts for each other over the years that we never could have read in the tea leaves the first day that we
never.
met. I think we met because I was looking for someone on the local Facebook group who could edit a video of my niece who wanted to do like a YouTube style science video. And you were like, I can do that.
And
And then it was
remember,
like,
though, even when I messaged you for that, there was a previous engagement between us that I had came and picked up your harmonium.
oh, yes, the harmonium that my dad had gotten at a yard sale.
Yeah, plug in. And I
Right.
still
From the
have
Buy
this.
Nothing group.
It now lives in the New Paltz Community Center, and it has come out of the closet for several happenstancery improv. But I remember, this is the Buy Nothing community. The very first gift you ever
No,
gave
it
me.
wasn't a harmonium. It was a pneumatic piano.
Yeah, some one of those electrical ones like you turn on and you start to hear the fan come on
Yeah.
and you
Ooh.
press it and it was beautiful.
But there was a synergy between us,
Yes.
and that has brought quite a few things. And when I just, you invited me to be on your podcast a while ago, and then I was like, books coming up, and here we are,
This is it.
making magic.
And well, and this is a great example of someone, the we went from helping you with your niece, who is very fun. I love making that video of her, and I know she's going to continue to grow up and be an incredible, amazing person. So I love doing that and working with you. And then I think it was my 25th birthday or something like that, that we were getting ready. And I said, why don't we do a life coach session? I think that was part of our exchange. So I got to actually have a one-on-one Zoom with you. And I remember going into the basement and really doing some future visions of where I was going and where I'm headed. And I'll tell you, it's been a great years of seeing that progress and seeing my career get better and seeing the inner work I'm doing. And I can't thank you enough for that. That I think here I am 3 years into what was my 5-year plan then. And I really feel so much more abundant and closer to that vision.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you for that incredible life coach session, our friendship that's continued. And, we live in the Hudson Valley, which is this little magical corner of the universe that I think you also have opened my mind up, that you have so much to give people from around the world. The world's a lot bigger than just where you live. You serve people from all around the world, Indonesia and beyond. And even when we did Resumes and Rebirth, you had people from around the globe. It wasn't just New Yorkers. So how important is that to you, and to open people's minds up? Because I'm going to be visiting another country later this month for the first time, and I just am so excited to go to Europe and Spain. But what's it like for you to engage with the rest of the other cultures
Thank
in the
you for that.
yeah.
That's a good question. But I want to mention that before I go into that, I'm actually going to offer the workshop series again this
Oh my
fall.
gosh,
And the
folks.
book is coming. We forgot to say that the book is going to be on sale on August 25th on Amazon.
Yes, we
So
will.
we
We'll
should
say
say
this
that. Uh,
now.
yeah, now. But I think it connects to that, like how important it is to me to connect far and wide, and like my excitement about actually publishing this book is that this kind of approach that has only existed in my workshop so far can be out there for everybody to enjoy and experience anywhere.
How
So
awesome is that,
I'm
folks?
so excited about that. And my undergraduate degree is in anthropology, and I speak Spanish and I speak French and studied other languages. So but I ended up with a career in public education in New York City. I ended up, my activism started with like international human rights, and then it ended up being like, I need to invest my energy in a place that I'm personally implicated, my own yard. But
Mm,
those connections with people from all over the world feed me so much,
mm.
because that is like my core passion is different cultures and understanding the role that culture plays in shaping how we think and the choices that we have, and understanding how different people think, is something I'm just like so passionate about.
It's amazing, and if folks listen to the most recent episode before this, was my Middle Eastern uncle talking about his culture and upbringing and the music of my culture, and it's just something that I'm so amazed in, and finding people around the globe. You've opened my mind, and thinking of myself as an improviser and as a creative coach, and what I'm doing down the line. There's this idea that people from around the world, we can now help each other thanks to technology. We can give these tools that are universal. And now your book is out for people to actually hold in their hand and write inside and go through these prompts. I just think that is such an amazing seed of peace that is going to spread throughout our whole planet here.
Yeah. It's
You
just a
did it.
different approach, right? It's a different approach to, I'm going to go through my career, but like in order to make these jumps, we have to back up and do the identity work, right? And then to make these jumps with like kind of what I was describing, it's almost a radical form of trust in a higher power, whatever that each person thinks of as that. It's like a partnership with our highest source of
Mhm.
what's possible for me in this life, and how can I bring myself forth more fully into the world.
It's so
um
true. And in order to get that connection, that linkage ready between you and your higher self, your higher power, yes, you have to break down those patterns and things that might be holding you back, whether and learn things often that we learn from our maybe family or maybe from our inner critic. And it's like, how do we unlearn those things and really relearn the good stuff
yeah,
about yourself?
exactly,
That's
exactly.
amazing. You've done that so well when you worked with us. I remember learning about so many different things, but one that really stuck with me and I'd love to ask you about is productive discomfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that concept, and how can it help the listener, in an example for anybody in their life?
Mm. Well, so the idea of productive discomfort is that we have to do something differently, right? But the ways that our patterns usually come from some form, either cultural patterns or some form of trauma, small t trauma, just how we are raised. Um, and we're trying to avoid pain by making these patterns. So it might be like, I don't speak up, or I don't make waves, or I have to dominate and control everything around me to avoid pain, right? It's
Mm,
whatever it is I'm going to zone out, tune out, I'm going to chill out, I'm not going to care about anything to avoid pain. It's an emotional pain. As a child, we don't have to remember. Most of the time we don't remember what it was about. But the things that are create ruts or patterns in our life that we don't want are from childhood patterns that were created to survive and thrive in what was an old situation that no longer exists. But part of
mm,
our brain is like, this is how we avoid pain.
yes.
So, as we do the healing work inside, we also have to change our behaviors. And it's very uncomfortable because part of us thinks we're going to die if we do the thing, whatever the thing is. So it might be saying no. Um, it might be for, I was talking to someone recently who was having a hard time throwing things out because like she was so attached to things. She literally felt like she would die if she threw out this like box of old stuff, but like it's so strong in us. So the
Mm.
productive discomfort is when we are moving towards these behave. The discomfort is part of our brain thinks we're going to die. I mean, I'm overstating, but I hope you guys are with me in that. So the discomfort is like danger, danger, but you actually know there's no danger.
Yeah.
Right? And so it can get us really off kilter and out of our comfort zone. And usually we check out at that point, right?
Mm.
We like do something to reduce the stress, like a numbing behavior, you know,
Hmm.
scrolling or whatever substances, or just some kind of like checking out, getting away from that feeling. And so it's just to lean in a little bit more. So, like, I had a client who had joined a Quaker congregation because there was an amazing activist doing some work that this person really cared about, and but they hadn't actually spoken to the activist. They were going weekly to the to the to the Quaker meetings, and they hadn't actually approached the person. There was like some kind of wild shyness happening, and so I suggested that each week she get closer to approaching the person. Not even approach
Mm.
the person, just feel the bubble of where where you get uncomfortable in standing in proximity to that person,
Hmm.
and stand in the spot where you feel really uncomfortable already. And then
Keep
hopefully I
pushing it a
think
little further each week.
the bubble with, you know, and it's not linear, like each week she goes 3 weeks 3 feet closer. It's like then there was a breakthrough, right? And something happened and they were together talking.
Yeah.
but like just noticing what happens, staying present in your body, because your body is like a screen of
Mm.
of information, you know. And but we think that a bad feeling is something to avoid, and sometimes it's just to be present with that feeling so that it can dissipate, so that we can discover that there's nothing there anymore, that it's, you know.
Mm.
And so it's a level of presence, willingness to be uncomfortable, hold ourselves through that whatever that yuck is, feel it, you know, in your belly. It's a really good way to do it, is to feel where it's showing up physically in your body, and
Yes.
breathe into that place, and even to talk to your little self that's getting scared, um, because that's how you can then become better at that thing and have a
Mm.
new choice in your life. And so it's all about like the healing process to be able to have breakthroughs and have something, a new menu appear.
Yeah. A whole new menu to pick from. You don't have to choose fear. You don't have to choose the saber-toothed tiger for your meal every day, which is what I've heard it described as, of this survival brain, you know, which is like we were raised at a time, or humans way back before society, where we really did potentially have a saber-toothed tiger around any corner ready to eat us.
Yeah.
But we don't have that anymore. But mentally, often we're still looking for what the saber-toothed tiger is now. What's the big
Yeah.
scary thing? And some people are always filling that role, you know, if it's not, if it's going to be my thing tonight, or it's going to be my thing in a couple of weeks, or anxiety, you know, is when that gets out of control. But I love that you described, you know, escaping that survival brain and learning that it's from childhood and it just needs your love and nurturing. And what a great piece of advice, talking to your younger and inner child and inner self there, seeing what it needs and really guiding it through, and by going closer to your feelings, not avoiding and escaping them.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we're speaking in broad strokes because each person has a different thing that they're dealing with. For some people it's numbing out, and for some people it's like having too many feelings all the time. And so the choice is something else. You know, it's hard to
Yeah, or
you know,
anger. You know, I've been thinking a lot about anger and how that itself is an avoidance of the real feelings
okay,
beyond anger.
exactly.
So like, or sadness is really anger, and it's, you know, and it becomes just, now I'm just depressed.
Right, we
But
might be avoiding our rage,
yeah,
or we might be using rage to avoid our grief.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a mask. So how do we
And all this
untake
sounds a
it
little
off?
like therapy, right? Because I was raised in a family of therapists.
Yeah,
So
talk a little more about it, or specifically, I one thing I remember is sitting on a meeting with you on my workshop, on my 25-year-old life coaching, and saying, my dream is to use my two big interests, acting and performing in improv, and therapy, because I was into psychology minor and digital media major. So I was like, I dream of having movie therapy with people where we can heal and act things out. And what did you say to me?
I was like, I come from a family that does that because my dad is a psychodramatist, and I come from, my father's father was uh, in partners with Zorka Moreno, who was the widow of Moreno, who created psychodrama. So I partially grew up living at the Psychodrama Institute. And then my aunt and uncle created playback theater. So I have like a real connection to
You're like
these.
the princess of psychodrama from
Yeah,
your background.
but I mean, I haven't studied it myself, and I'm actually not marketing myself as a therapist per se, right? Because I'm doing coaching, which is different.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's a very, very sensitive and informed kind of coaching where there's room for these kinds of processes and emotions as we're figuring out where we're going.
Yeah, because that's it. You help people in so many ways, and through this book and by acting it out. This is like the inner drama that is often holding us back from really our full potential. And yeah, when you turned to me and said, "Joe, do you know you're living like 10 minutes from the epicenter of psychodrama?" It blew my mind, and I couldn't believe it, and got to meet your dad, who I do love so much, and is such a talented, amazing poet. So you guys are just like the coolest family ever for me to meet in
Aw,
the Hudson Valley here.
aw.
And I'm so thankful to know your folks. And what is so beautiful to me is that you grew up to embody your own unique way of helping, healing, and inspiring. And you are such a natural at doing that. You have it, and it's part of your personality and identity now.
Well, to go back to career path stuff, in the first two-thirds of my career, I really felt like I was supposed to kind of run things, like run a school, run a classroom, hold, like I have so much responsibility in me.
Mm.
And now I've discovered more that my sweet spot is to come in and inspire, is to come in and support, is vision with the practical parts, because I'm so super practical. So it's like make a plan, but like I'm not wanting to step into holding an institution from the inside. And back to, there's a part of the book called Own Who You Are, and
Mm.
and there's a recommendation to do some list of personality type inventories, and I really love the Clifton Strength Finder. And when I did the Clifton
Yes.
Strength Finder, there's like four quadrants, and one of them is about like having like steady long-term attention and responsibility, and I have like almost nothing in that one.
Mm.
Which shocked me because I have so much about communication, so much about strategy, so much about relationships, and not so much about like carrying, you know, that. And that made sense why I burned out after 5 years of running a school,
Hmm.
because I was not using the strongest parts of creating the school was the strongest part of me.
Yes. Being a part
So
of that and seeing your strength as a member of that group, inspiring problem solving, I'm
yeah,
sure that showed you a lot about your
very strong with
skills.
I'm very strong in problem solving. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I share this not just to talk about me, but to talk about that process of like more and more and more self-knowledge and realness about who we are and
Mm.
what actually feeds us, rather than who we think we should be. And
Yeah.
so like that disconnect is like a really important, I think, in these career crossroads where we're trying to figure out our pathway. And that's a part of the book too, is just to like, who am I really? I invite people to do their own hierarchy of needs,
Hmm.
and like really inquire into like what are my personal needs, not what oftentimes we have stuff laid on to us by our parents too, of like what you should need, right?
Yeah, that was a big thing we went into, and scarcity mindset versus abundance.
Mhm.
And yeah, this is what do we really need, and going into why are we doing what we do, not just what are we doing, but why, what are you after. So owning your strengths and doing exactly what you're good at, and knowing not everybody has to carry the torch forever, that you are someone who is so good at coming in, seeing a group dynamic, and saying, how can I help you see a solution here and make a plan and make a strategy, and then you're off to the next group and to the next corporation. And that's incredible. That's We all need that.
Yeah. Yeah. So do a little bit of as an outsider in the story and come in, hold space for systems to talk to each other and discover what needs to be resolved, uh,
Hmm.
and fixed and, really adjusted in the
Yeah, everybody knows.
structures
you,
of the place.
you know how it gets weird after you work for a place for a long time, and the dynamics are just, everybody knows each other. You're a little too comfortable maybe, or maybe one office you're not comfortable at all, and you're still rigid, and you don't there's
Right.
dynamics, and I don't like talking to Larry. And so,
Or we, sorry, I interrupted you.
oh no, I'm just giving examples of that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. Or, we have a rhetoric that we empower people, right? Our clients are empowered, da, 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 but internally we're micromanaging,
yeah.
or we have I'm working with one organization right now on the organizational supervisory culture. How are like the staff are saying that they're not being really supported and reflecting on their work and growing as professionals. And it looks like the organization does a lot of their communication through email and not enough actually quality meeting time, and that there's not uh, like the process of supervising where you're actually supporting reflection as opposed to just saying do this and this isn't
Mm,
occurring, at least in enough of the teams. And so then I'm supporting them in reflecting all the way to the top with the
yes.
executive team. Okay, are we modeling this?
Are we
and then
showing that how it's done? And
are we providing training to these newer supervisors in how to do that? Or are we just assuming that they know how? And what are the assumptions that we
so
have
true.
about what people can and can't do, and what needs to be made more explicit and supported more explicitly in the organization for these
Mm,
conversations to be taking place that are going to impact actually the work out in the field, which is public health. So it's like goes all the way up to, are we supporting public health of the community in New York City, to what's happening inside in both the systems of like how do we train people, but also the culture. How do we talk to each other?
yeah. Because it's a difference between somebody who's been doing it the same 10 years in, and a company that is maybe totally changing, and every year they're reflecting and saying, well, we made these changes here, and how does that feel, like that, having a workplace that is interested in training, or even a group like my improv group. I realized, like, we have to stop and think about this and talk about this, and how is it going, and what are your wants and needs, and how do people feel. Because yeah, this any project, if you don't stop and reflect, you're just like throwing paint against the wall and hoping something sticks, if you're not doing that reflection.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just, but sometimes it's about the culture of the place or the relationships, but sometimes it's about the structures and the systems that need to be
Yeah.
in place too. But it's like really back to my undergraduate degree in anthropology. It's really understanding a place and how it's working,
Mm.
and then asking the right questions, but then co-creating a solution with the place. It's not the kind of consulting where you come in and say like, here's your list of what to do. It's much more of a collaborative process.
Absolutely. That's what you do best. And, just seeing how you made every member of the group, when I did resumes and rebirth, like, we all felt so seen by you and understood, like, on a cellular level. You knew us. You really did. And it just was so cool that we got to know each other through it. So folks, I mean, if you have a chance to do this October workshop with Karali, it'll change your whole life. It's the book is also incredible. I mean, to go on this path through the book, buy the book right now and get ready. But if you're on this path of the rebirth journey, and I understand this is going to be a little different in October, right? Not so career focused,
It will
more
be,
soul.
but we're gonna do the activities in this book together, well, and additional ones.
Yeah.
But the original workshop series was half of the inner work and then half of working on our resumes.
Yes.
And I felt like it was too fast. So I've decided to do the Career Rebirth actually as a 12-week series. So that's much longer because I feel like people need to digest and apply things and see the change occurring and have the support ongoing. And it's 12 weeks, but it includes 2 coaching sessions and then 12 weeks of workshops. And then I'll do the resume series as a separate series. So
That's
people
great.
can sign up and have this like still like it's not about like just how to write your resume. It's more like what is my purpose and how can I express that, right?
Yes. And how
But
can I reflect it?
additional.
Yeah, that's great for folks
I
who
think
are
I
need that extra spirit time and really want to do the inner work. I think that's a really wise plan to just so focus on that work first, because as you've said, that has to be really done first to properly rock the resume and make it really
yeah.
reflect your inner self.
I mean, it will still be visioning. It'll still be like my future self and coming to
Yeah,
clarity with
you're
that. Yeah.
making your plan, but
But
you're
I think I've gotten to more also I'm feeling more entitled to take up people's time. I think when I was like, oh,
good.
just stuff it all into 8 weeks. But now that I've been doing it for a few years, I'm ready to be like, okay, I actually think it's 12 weeks.
I
And
think that's right. That's spot on. And 12 weeks. Speaking of 12 weeks, inner child, inner critic, I wanted to just shout out which I was really inspired by you in Resumes and Rebirth a couple years ago, and I did my first ever Artist Way group, which is something that if you ever heard of it, it's been out for 30 years, and it's all about kind of guiding people for a 12-week journey on how to recover their inner creative. So it's all about art, it's all about creativity. And it's yours. I honestly, as being a huge fan of it, seeing this book that you have today, I am so excited to start yours because you actually write in the book. It's not all separate. I use a different book every day to do my work. Your book is like a great place to actually, I'm gonna turn the book you just gave me into my personal transformation Bible. And that's really what you have there. It's incredible. But I just wanted to shout that out and ask you if you've done that, or if you were semi inspired by Julia Cameron.
Well, I also did the Artist Way some 25 years ago.
It's
And
awesome.
I really loved it. I really loved it. And I do mention it in this book. Like I think somewhere I mentioned morning pages. I'm not sure. But it is in my references because I do feel influenced by it. Um,
Awesome.
but
You remind me
I
of
did
her.
not oh, I did not set out to make an Artist Way. I really set out, like I said, like it started with the coaching sessions that became a workshop series, and it just came out of me like that. But I do
Yeah.
like to say it's like the Artist Way of career development. But
Right. Like, so the Artist
yeah.
Way has always been connecting me with my inner child, like this childlike, jolly nature in me that is the little boy that like needs a little bit
Mhm.
of a little bit of more focus. It's all about treating and nurturing. But you and what you do, I think is almost like a graduation into career. It's a transformation for adults. It's like almost finding your inner adult, because that's like what I got from you.
You're adult. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Well,
That's what it's you.
it's funny you're saying that, and I'm really glad you're saying that because here is a direct influence, and I forgot that
Yeah.
this was from that. But I have here in the introduction ongoing practices that are recommended to do the whole time you're doing the book, and one is having someone to talk to about it. So that's speaking to learn. The next one is self care and healing. And the third one I called inviting the creative, which is adopting or continuing a practice that can help you access your creativity, something you love doing, but that is not like productive per se, right?
Mm.
Um, so, like, you know, exercise could, for some people, could be this, but for some people couldn't, right?
Hmm.
But it could be painting or hiking or whatever. But
Knitting.
that, I think that comes directly from the artist way, that idea of kind of like artist state and having those things that are going to nourish yourself, because this is about like finding yourself. So
Yeah, and your
that's a
future,
breadcrumb.
which is often so the hardest part for people. Like, I think if you found your creativity and you are finding your inner child, and that's why I'm so excited to the fact that you gave me this when I'm here at week 4 of the artist way. I'm already have this new regiment of writing every day and doing some of the therapeutic workshops that she does. But taking this on at this stage is just, I feel so excited to do it again at my pace here. And you have shown me that, yes, by having that nurturing and creativity and the things that are honoring yourself and what you want to become, you feel more like fulfilled and ready to sit down and look at the resume, ready to think practically about your future. It's like, great, now that you've filled your cup, go sit by the desk and do some work, and drink some water and actually apply or and send the messages to the people, because that, like you said, is how things get done in this world. It all is about who you know and who you speak to and tell, hey, I am now a filmmaker, I am a creative, I am a director, I am a consultant, and I want to help you. How are you? What do you need?
Yeah.
That's amazing, the
Yeah.
power of that. That'll change your life if you sent out 3 messages like that a day.
I think the other thing about the play is that, as we're in this like healing and rediscovering and reinventing, you can't logic your way through all of it, especially if you're
True.
trying to like do this dance in concert with your own inner highest guidance, and tuning in part,
Hmm.
the becoming really sensitized to your intuition, which is also something that is in this book. um that isn't just a logic process. So that's part of where that play space, that getting out of your head, is important, so that these things can come together with some, I don't know, alchemy, something that is
Yeah.
more than the sum of its parts. Um, yeah.
That's it. We're rising up like phoenixes here, thanks to amazing work that Karali has done. And everyone, if you look in the description, there's going to be links to the book where you can find it. And, we will have all of Karali's information for the website where you can book a workshop, book a life coaching session, get Karali to come in and solve your workplace drama, and hopefully transform your inner workings. Find that inner adult who needs to get things done.
I thought maybe today we could do a little exercise, so I could leave our listeners with something for themselves.
That was the greatest idea I've ever heard. Let's do something together here now that the viewer can take with them and start their journey.
Yeah. So I'm going to invite you. We're going to be thinking in kind of in 4 categories. And I'm imagining you could draw some concentric circles, like, you know, 4 circles, so that you have 4 different spaces to write. Although, unfortunately, the inside circle is very small on the one that I made. So leave
Keep
yourself
that in mind.
a little bit of room. And you can also just do this in your mind's eye, if you are not watching or listening in a place where you're going to be drawing circles on a page.
Pull over.
Pull over. Um, and this is I've created this just for our podcast today, but it's a composite of 2 activities in the book. There's an activity called Future You, where you're imagining your well-being in a future time. And then there's another one that is about clarifying your purpose before you go into resume writing, to having clarity of what you're trying to create in the world and how you personally want to go about creating that. So I'm combining these into this activity. So the inner circle is, so first of all, the time frame. I'm going to invite you to be thinking about a future moment. Maybe it's a year from now, less than that, and you're going to be thinking about transforming an aspect of your life. Perhaps it's your career, or maybe it's a project that you have that you're trying to succeed in. Whatever it is, you're trying to move. So an aspect of your life that you are looking to transform, and a time period. So perhaps it's next summer. And the first thing I want you to imagine, so I'm going to ask you to imagine that you have succeeded in transforming completely, absolutely beyond your wildest dreams. You are totally successful.
You did it.
You did it. The first thing I'd like you to imagine is your physical environment around you. Like, physically, where are you? Are you on a stage? Are you in a classroom? Are you behind a desk? Are you, outdoors? Where are you physically in the moment that you're imagining? Because we're doing a snapshot here.
And this is in the center?
Yes.
Circle?
This is in the center circle. And so that would be like, what are you wearing? What does the floor look like under your feet? What is the physical setting? What are you doing with your hands? Like, are you using a computer? Are you, singing? What is the doing and just the physical part of the doing and the being, where you are, what you're wearing. Just imagining that for a moment, writing it down in the center circle. That's the physical. The next layer is emotional and feeling. So that includes, like, how do you feel in your body in this successful moment where you're doing the thing that, the transformation has occurred? How does it feel? Where in your body do you feel that happiness? Is it in your belly? Is it in your chest? Is it in your shoulders? What are the sensations in your body and in your emotions? What is the particular flavor of happiness that you have in that success? What is your glow? Or maybe you're feeling rested,
clear,
creative, productive, whatever it is for you. The emotions. So level 1 is feelings, level 2 is your emotions, but also feeling in your body, physical sensation. And then the third is social. It's the relationships around you. If you think of those almost like the threads that are connecting to you, if you're very introverted, maybe there's just 1 or 2 threads. If you're very extroverted, maybe there's 1,000 threads. But what are those connections that you have with people? Are you working closely, collaboratively? Do you have a lot of autonomy? Whatever it is for you, the feeling of that connection, friendliness, warmth, maybe it's the recognition or admiration. What are those relationships bringing to you? Just feel that for a moment, and you can note that in the third circle. So we have physical, emotional, and sensation, and then the social experience you're having succeeded. All right, and the fourth circle is impact. So it's your impact on the world, and also like the impact of your success in your life. So if it's money, right, then I want you to not imagine having money, but what you have because of that money.
I love when you did this in my life coach session. You said not just like how much dollars, Well, how does it feel to have that cart filled with the groceries of anything you wanted?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the important thing is like, what's the, or if it's like, oh, I have this amazing job where I'm helping people. I want to invite you to see all the helped people. I mean, that's part of the relationships, but or
How do we change the world on the big picture with our success
yeah.
too?
So,
That's
so for in the fourth circle, just note the impact of you having succeeded a year from now.
hmm.
So we started with physical, then we went to emotion and sensation, then we went to social connection, and then we got to the impact.
Wow. Creating a community. Wow. We're, we all have the power to make waves and truly make this world a better space for all of us.
I talk about manifesting a little in my book, and I don't really like the word manifesting, has like so many weird cheap meanings now, but I couldn't find I actually tried to rename it for the book.
Yeah.
Shape making. I can't remember what it was. I tried to use AI to help me come up with a better name, but I decided to stay with manifesting. And so the first step is imagining your goal with vivid detail, which is part of which is really what we just did. That's what I mean by vivid detail. The second is letting go, because that experience that you just described could come to you in more than one way, right? So it might not come to you in the form of the exact job you have in mind. You might win the grocery store card where you get all free groceries, or whatever, something.
Yeah.
But like, you wanted to be able, like, I couldn't have asked for that job in Jakarta, Indonesia. I couldn't have asked for it. It had to find me. I couldn't have described the exact consulting job. So
Yeah.
let go. The third step is to take small steps aligned to the deeper vision. So working on the things that you described. I'm not going to go into too much detail now because I've been talking a lot, but it's in here. And then cultivate wonder and listen to your intuition. And then the fifth one, shocker, do the emotional work.
That's the hard part, folks. Final answer there. So if we do that, if we imagine, let go, take small steps, cultivate, and do the emotional work, it's very likely that you will in some form, and you don't, and like you said, letting go of the how, it's going to come to you, but you can do what you set your mind out to, folks. And this book is a great piece to have and keep you on track. And I'm so excited to start it up again and rebirth once again. Thank you so much, Karali, for being on this show today. I mean, I just want to give you a chance to say anything to the viewer, to someone who maybe stuck around here to the end. One last little piece of loving advice from you, and then we'll call it a day.
I have my last piece of advice in the book. Change is not linear, and nothing is wasted. That's about when you end up going down one or another rabbit hole, and then you think you wasted your time, but actually it all comes back together. And the real change is inside.
So beautiful. I love that. Folks, there's no wasted time. Keep following your heart and acting on your highest interest, and be passionate. Be the change you wish to see. Thank you.
The book is coming out on August 25th, 2025. And the workshop is starting on October 18th, 2025.
Incredible. And folks, read the description below. Click the links now and follow Karali. Send a message and let us know what's something you took from this. Write it in the comments feature and spread the love. And thank you from the bottom of my heart, Karali, for
Thanks,
all
Joe.
the help you've done for me over the years. Peace and love and coffee. Cheers, everyone.